Turn to John chapter 4 real quick. We'll be alive in our worship. But Jesus is talking to the woman, and he's going through the thing of New Testament contrast in this particular place, at this particular spot. And he says that the Jews, let me kind of just throw this in here, I ain't even going to follow that. The Jews was worshiping what they knew. All right? You're worshiping what you don't know. And there's a time coming where it ain't even going to matter whether we're on this mountain or whether we're in Jerusalem, where the Jews would worship. All right? Now, he's not saying at this particular point that the Jews were wrong. All right? So follow me. They were right. They were doing according to the ordinance that was given to them, that they needed to worship. But he says, the hour cometh when true worshipers are going to worship where?
In spirit and in truth.
In spirit and in truth. So the Jews did what they did, which was okay for that time. Only up until the now is part. In other words, he says that the true worshipers, he says that there's a time coming and now is when the true worshipers will worship him in spirit and truth. So their things was only to get them up to the now is. You feel me?
Yeah. So
it was worship, but it wasn't quite true worship. Follow me?
Yeah.
Follow me? All right. So that's the conversation that they're having in that particular place. He says, so there comes a time where the true worshipers are going to worship the Father in spirit and in truth. There's vain worship. That's in Matthew chapter 15, verse 7 through 9. All right, so write those down if you want. All right, that's based on the traditions of men while it's ignoring the commands of God. All right, that's vain worship, and it's offered without involving our heart. Anytime you're worshiping, remember I started out saying that we want to be intentional. All right, sometimes intentional means, God, I got a whole bunch of stuff on my mind right now. The Bible says, cast all your cares on the boy cares for you. So maybe the way I need to start worship for me that day may not be two fast songs, a slow song. You know, because we do the fast song because they don't get the people coming in. Whatever, man. Throw that stuff out the window. All right. God, I talk to God. Come in church, leave your problems at the door. No, you don't. Because then what do I do with him saying, cast all my cares on himself? I leave it at the door, so then when I get ready to go back out the door, get on back up. Don't grab my stuff. I'm thinking if I got stuff, you know how the sisters don't get my stuff and don't take it out. No, bring it to God and say, God, this is what's on my mind right now. I did youth ministry for so many years. They say, well, what if I be trying to pray in my mind, be going to all kind of stuff, and yes, think about sex, and this is, I said, guess what? Then talk to God about it. I can't talk to God about it. Yes, you can, because guess what? He already knows you're thinking it. And I guarantee you, when you start talking to him about it, your relationship with him is going to go up. The things that we feel we can't talk to God about, which naturally comes to your mind. This is organic, people. What naturally comes to your mind, start talking to him. Well, I was supposed to be praying about whether I could get in school or not, but my mind was, evidently, you need to get your mind clear first. Clear it with the Holy Spirit. Talk to him about that. All right? So it's some stuff that we, all right, so they got to be offered involving our hearts. All right, then there's ignorant worship. What is ignorant worship? Acts 17, 22 to 23. And simply it's worshiping basically and you're ignorant of the nature of God. Or you're ignorant of his desires. What he really desires in worship. Does he really desire your sacrifice? Or does he really desire your heart? You feel me? At some point, when we use the word sacrifice of praise, but at some point that word should be replaced with our love praise. Because the word sacrifice typically takes a negative connotation. Why got to be a sacrifice? I want to honor God in our sacrificial giving. It's his money. It's his money anyway. So you have to give a sacrificial offering for, you follow what I'm saying? So that sacrifice of praise needs to turn into, I just love him like that. I ain't have to sacrifice nothing. Actually, it's a benefit. Actually, I feel better. The spirit of heaviness, I put on garments of praise. It's just, I am here, God, glad to give it up. All right, so we need to be aware of his desires and aware of his the nature of God. The nature of God is what? Spirit. So that means that if we're worshiping thinking it's something else, that's why worshiping idols don't really work. All right? All right, so we got to be conscious of his nature. If we try to worship outside of the nature of God, which is also the Spirit of God, and by the Spirit, then we're doing some stuff that ain't, we off somewhere into some other body's land. All right, there is will worship. In Colossians 2, verse 20 through 23, I'm just running you through it because, for the time, but, all right, y'all got that? All right, that's self-imposed, not God-directed worship. All right, the beginning of our session actually was God-directed. We just began to pray, and it went where it went, and we go with it. All right? That almost should happen, that probably should happen every Sunday.
Yeah.